So since we have these images here already, let's just copy these images into the slider thumbnails like that. Okay, and let's see what we've got there. We've got this monstrosity here. Okay, so slider thumbnails should have a style as well, of course. So slider thumbs, and what do we do here? First of all, the display must be flex so that we can squeeze these guys in there. And I don't know why my flex isn't working so well now, because usually I don't need to do things like this, but beggars can't be choosers. So I'll do image there, and then because this is styling the images now, so I'll say flex. I'll tell them how to flex. I'll just say flex 1 like that, so they can share the space equally. They don't seem to want that. Let me just say width 10%. Let's see how that works out. Something like this. Okay, but the slider thumbnails, because remember that the slider images itself is 80% in width. So if you don't want these to go overboard the image, what you can do is go to the slider thumbnail, and then you can give it a width of 80%. Just make sure you give it a margin of auto so that it's in the center, and then let's give it a small margin on top to leave a gap between the main image and the thumbnail. So let's just put 10 pixels like that, and there we go. So too much, I guess. Let's put 5 pixels there. And the margin auto doesn't seem to be working. Margin, and that's because I overwrote it here. My bad. So I'll say margin top. That's what I needed. Refresh. Okay, so margin top there. So you can see this, and maybe we need to separate them a little bit. So each image should have a border. Let's use a solid, very thin, and a light gray. There we go, much better. And then I will also say the cursor should be a pointer, so the user can know that they can click on these things. And let's also add some effects here, like hover, full colon, hover. And then here I wanted to just reduce the opacity just a touch, maybe 0.5, like that. Okay, so there we go. As you can see, once you hover on them, they reduce in opacity. The good thing is you can also add a transition to this, and just say transition opacity, and give it a transition of 1 second. That way when you hover on them, they don't move so quickly. It's gradual like that. Very nice, but maybe too slow. So let's do a 0.5 instead. Something like that. That looks much better. We can also add a transition to these guys. If you want, hover on them, they translate to one side. That is easy to do. Let's come back here and do it on the, let's do it on the left, slider left and slider right. So where's slider left? There we go. And slider right. So easy to do these things. Let's just say hover here, and then we can put a transform. Transform, what kind of transform do we want? We want a translate on the x-axis, and this is the left side, so minus, let's try 20 pixels. I don't know why I like doing that. It's reflex. So as you can see, boom, 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 boom. Very nice. Let's do the same for the right hand side and put a hover. Let's get the translation, and we can just remove the negative value, and we have our positive value instead. But of course we need a transition for this, you know. This doesn't look too good. So transitions are easy. Like I said, just put them on the main style and just say transition, and and just tell it how long you want it to last. So maybe 0.3 seconds. There we go. Much better. Okay. And then these go. So it's up to you how many effects you want to add and so on. Okay, so far so good, but let's click on these. Let's make these clickable. So this is not difficult actually. So what we want to do is add an event listener on each one of these, right? Now the thing is, like I said before, there are two ways to add an event listener. So the first one is by adding it directly in there, inline. But let's find another way of doing it, because I don't want to have to add this on-click listener to every item here. It will mean if a different user comes in and forgets to add those, then this is not going to work. So I want it to be automatic to add these things on its own. So all we need to do is get the slider images thing here, and then get what's in here and add an event listener to each one of these. So I'll copy that. So now let me come down here and create a function. So I will say function add event. We'll keep it short. Add event, like so. So now, since this function isn't part of window.move, it's a private function, it's not accessible outside here, which is very good. So add event. So in order to add an event, what we need is the slider images container. Nope, actually that's not what we need. We need this one, the slider thumbs. So though we will copy this. So slider thumbs. Container. This is its name, class name, and this is what we've assigned it to. So from here, I want to get all the images that are inside there. So I will simply duplicate this because it's the same thing I'm looking for. So I'll say thumbs, just call it thumbnails because these are thumbnails. So thumbs is equal to this item dot query selector. So now when you want to select many of these, you add O at the end here, capital A, like that. So it will convert this into an array. So what we are looking for is anything with a tag of img. So we won't put any dot or hash there, to just be img like that. So to get all images in there, and then let's loop through those images. Thumbs. So for each loop here, going through each one of them and accessing one at a time. So once we access this, all we have to do is just add an event listener, like so. take care of the capitalization. What event are we listening for? It's the click. And then we have to run a function. So I'll put a comma here and we'll run a function. So we'll call it thumb clicked, like that. Okay, so we're adding an event listener, and this will be the function that will be run once a thumbnail is clicked. So let's create that function here. There we go. It comes with an event there, E, so we can add that there. So what do we do exactly when something is clicked? So we have to know which one of these was clicked actually. So for now, before we do that, let me just put an alert here so that we can see that it's actually working, that it can tell when we have clicked. So add events, I think I'll put an S there just so we are clear. So this should happen immediately when we load the page. So function add events right there. So which would mean to be nice to, actually I can just call it right there, right here, call it add events, so that it runs immediately. Boom. And then so anyway, since we are not actually we don't need a function here, we can actually remove this because we just need this to run once. We don't need to run many times, so no need for a function. So I'll just put a thing here, add event listeners. Excuse me. All right, so let's see if this actually worked. So let me refresh the page and let me click, and you see click, 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 and more click, clickety-click. Okay, so we are good to go there, but we just need to know which of those was actually clicked. Now remember that we have each of these thumbnails in here. Okay, inside here we have all those thumbnails, so we can just check if the target was exactly one of these. So let me just do a for loop here. We'll loop through all of them and check one by one which one was clicked. So at this point I will say thumb, yeah, I'll call thumbs, and then I'll just put an if statement here and say if thumb I is equal to, let's put 3 equal signs just to make sure it's exactly equal to, I'll say e dot current target. So current target always gets you the thing that has the event itself, regardless where you clicked, as long as the event was fired. So current target, if this is equal to e dot current target, actually I don't need this other parentheses here. If this is true, then let's be alerted to the number I. So we'll see what number it is at that time. And then since we've found it, we don't need to keep looping. We can just tell it to break. Step out of the loop. So let's click now. That's 0, that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. Great, we're doing fine. So now that we know which one was clicked and which number it was, we can easily translate these numbers so that we can move the item. So I will just say move. I'll copy this move, and put it here. Now just for clarity, I can just call it as move, but just so you don't get lost when you want to read your code later on, we'll do that. Window.move. Okay, but we have to set the current position to whatever it is here. Now remember, one thing is that these positions are in the negatives. They are not positives. No, they are going to the negative value. So what we will do is we say current position is equal to I. Let's try it like that and let's see what happens. Refresh and let's click on this one. See, we get the wrong image, but the idea is there, and you see nothing happens anymore until there, and boom. Okay, so what we need to do is multiply it by a -1 so that we change it to a negative value. Refresh. Let's try it now. Bam, 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 bam. Very nice. So our slider is working very well, but we have a few problems to fix here. So for example, if we add more items in here, so let's try and do that. Let me go to number 4. I'm going to repeat number 4, and I will repeat number 4 there. Save, come back, refresh. If I keep going, I will never get to that extra number 4, even though I can see it here. So here there are 5, quite okay. But if I click here, I go back to number 1. So this is not very scalable. So if I have a different number of images than 4, then I have a problem. And so that is not good. We have to make it universal so that we don't need to care about such things. We just add as many images as we want, and then it should make its own adjustments.